to Robbie's podcast, your destination for in-depth discussion and analysis of the Premier League. I'm Robbie Mustoe, he's Robbie Earle, and here are today's topics. Arsenal keep their narrow lead atop of the table after a convincing 3-0 win at home to Bournemouth. Erling Haaland heats up at the right time for Manchester City and fires in 4 goals in a 5-1 win against Wolves. And Liverpool deliver a statement 4-2 win over Tottenham and Jurgen Klopp's penultimate match at Anfield. That's what we've got coming up in today's episode.
Well, you know, Mustoe, before we get started, I want to remind you that the Paris Olympics are coming up this summer, and Pro Soccer Talk's Joe Prince-Wright, our buddy, is into the top 3 of his countdown of the top 10 moments in Olympic soccer history. This week at number 3 is the US Women's National Team epic semi-final victory over Canada in London. Remember that in the London 2012 games. Head to NBCSports.com/soccer to watch the US Women's National Team rally 3 times at Old Trafford to reach the gold medal match. And also stay tuned for moment number 2 that's coming up this Thursday. But my friend, before we get to the football, we have to talk racing. We have to talk the Derby, and we have to talk Churchill Downs, 150th running of the Kentucky Derby, and what a great occasion,
I think we had
mate,
the best time, didn't we? We had the best time.
We probably had, as good a time. The new paddock, they spent something like 200 million in that area. We were right I mean, we couldn't have had a better spot, could we?
Yeah, great spot. And the atmosphere was good, wasn't it? And they're all dressing up for ladies. Well, every day they dressed up amazingly well. Yeah. And one of the things is the amount of football fans. It had like
crossover was incredible.
Fan fest vibe about it, where our set was right in between the race goers, and they're all having a drink. They all want to talk football, say hi, and have photographs and all that. So we love that, going out and meeting people. But the venue was spectacular. You know, the games have been good watching it, but and picking horses, mate.
It's easier for some of us than others. It would seem.
Well, we had a little experiment. I was gonna go for the favourites, thinking it's always good to have one of the favourites because you know you're going to be shouting. It should be there or thereabouts, and you were going to go more with the name kind of idea.
Yeah, a name or a number or there's some kind of attraction that took you to it, and
the results are in.
The results are in, and it would seem.
Don't back favourites.
Don't back favourites. Data as before. It's interesting, Mustoe, because the Kentucky Derby is a unique place. It's a brilliant occasion. And I'm just trying to think for some of our viewers and listeners who maybe are in the UK, what would be the equivalent? Are we talking like Epsom Downs? Are we talking Royal Ascot? Are we talking the Grand National, the Aintree?
I would think Aintree, the Grand National, but it's the race that everybody wants to have a bet on. Now, it's different because the Grand National in the UK is these huge hurdles that these horses have to jump over, and it's like an absolute test of stamina and everything else to get to the finish, let alone win it. Red Run was a
Red Run used to be the famous.
And there's Cheltenham races, there's the Gold Cup, and all that. There's a ton of great racing in the UK. It really is. But this, I mean, the venue, Rob, the Twin Spires, and and when we flew out because we had to get back to Connecticut to do the Sunday show, we went right over Churchill Downs. It was such a cool in our plane, obviously, and it's such a cool sight to see that place was packed out. That's for the Derby because we had to get out of there before the Derby.
That was when we were in our private jet, wasn't it? Do you remember the private jet that we took?
Yeah, that they put on for us to get us back ASAP.
Okay. Let's get to football, mate. We're not quite private jets. Not yet, anyway. Okay, let's start off the football chat. Let's start with Arsenal, because this title race now, and it looks as though Liverpool have dropped out and you know, like going to be 3rd place. But in terms of who plays first, now everybody's talking about, is there an advantage playing first, get your points, or is it advantage playing? Arsenal hosted Bournemouth. We know it's a Bournemouth team that were mid-table, but playing particularly well under Earle, and their form's been excellent, Rob, since the turn of the year. So I think everybody felt there's a little bit of danger in this game. Whether you fancied Arsenal or not, they'd have to kind of earn the right to get the result. It was a little bit nervy for periods, Rob, I think, as the chances came, but they got the job done, and in the end, they got the job done well.
I just think Arsenal, right now, Rob, are about as good as they've ever been. Well, not ever been, but for a long period of time, particularly under the manager. Yeah. I had no concerns that even after the first 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, we saw like 4 or 5 chances, didn't we?
Yeah, and I still felt they got in behind Bournemouth so many times, and the shots weren't quite right. And Bournemouth were doing everything that teams that are fresh. Yeah, they were throwing themselves in front and blocking the ball. The goalkeeper was making saves, and I'm thinking this doesn't. They can't continue with that. And then, oftentimes a team breaks in the last few minutes of first half and the last few minutes of the game because the time sets in before they get a break at half time. Yeah. That's exactly what happened. Again, like just the performances of certain players are outstanding to me. And Leandro Trossard was a decision the manager made probably a few weeks ago to play him on the left instead of Martinelli.
Yeah.
And what's he got now, Rob? Is that 11? I think it's 11 Premier League goals
11
now
that
Trossard's got there. Lovely assist from Declan Rice, who had another monster game. So I thought there was three kind of parts to this. Trossard's decision to play him on the left, scores another goal. Yeah. Kai Havertz, now, which will... Okay, so... what? So he's fit. The more he plays as a number 9, right? The better, more comfortable, and more effective he looks.
Hello.
Now, I don't want to go into that, all that stuff, because that doesn't look quite so good for me.
It's a bit like the racing. I've won that, so go on then.
All right, then. But my point was going to be, I heard him described once as a 9.5, not a 9 and a 10, and this false 9 is a new term. Yeah. What I liked about this performance, and we've seen it a few times now, not only does he know when to drop in to
outnumber in midfield and build up the play.
Keep it simple. He's technically very good.
Yeah, he is.
But he makes a lot of runs in behind as well. So that's like a 9. Yeah. So he does play like a 9 a lot, and he comes in to play like a 10 a lot as well. Yeah. So I was impressed with that. It leads to the first goal, the penalty kick, of course, where he drags his foot, Robbie. Let's just have a little pause there, because when we saw it, and when I saw it, I saw a goalkeeper slide in with that leading foot, nowhere near the ball. He slides across the path of the forward Havertz, and Havertz obviously keeps his left foot low
because this contact,
the stride wasn't quite where it could have been for it to be a direct contact. Do you know what I mean, Rob?
He could have missed the contact if his
he could have missed the contact.
If the stride pattern was different and probably more normal, he would have not had contact.
Yeah, but
so he left his foot down. He didn't bring his foot up so that the contact was made. Now,
this is
really interesting.
This is split
Yeah, it's really interesting because I remember hearing sorry, just to jump in, Gary Lineker. We had on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I remember sitting with Gary a few years ago. We were chatting about something, and he said, if a goalkeeper comes out and makes that rash decision and can hit me, I'm going to let him hit me. He shouldn't be coming if he's not going to make the ball. So from a forward's point of view, it's almost like, well, if I'm going to leave my leg there, if you want to hit it, hit it.
Even though the leg was left in a manufactured way.
I'm just saying, and I don't want to put words in Gary's mouth, and I'm sure, but I would think he would feel that that's half decent attacking play. Yeah. Now, I can say, I thought it was one of those, Rob, where the more I saw it, the less I thought it was a penalty. But I'm thinking, the moment it's given, it's not going to be overturned because it's contact.
Yes.
And it's, again, and I hate this phrase because it's now become, it's a modern penalty kick. It's a in the current structure of rules and the VAR and the way that the game is administered, that is going to be a penalty kick more times than not.
Yeah, and for me, it was just the most to come to slide across the path of a player. Yeah. I'm sure I can remember a conversation with a referee. Maybe was it Mark Clattenburg when he came in and worked with us a little bit? But there was something about if you take the path of a player, even if you don't make contact, in the rules is a foul is a trip or an attempted trip, and you could argue that he slid across the path of the player, attempting to trip him. I mean, Havertz just made sure there was contact by keeping the foot low. Yeah. I'm with you. It wasn't enough for a clear and obvious error. Maybe if it wasn't given, maybe we'd be sitting here and thinking, well, he did it, just hang his leg there. So it's one of those, right?
Yeah,
and there's lots of them, and people will be on different sides of this. Yeah. But if you want to know where I am, I still think that was a right call initially to give the penalty. And from there on, and the other person we're going to get to is Declan Rice, Rob, man of the match on the day. Scores a goal late with the power and the energy to make that box run with this number 8 position. Another Arteta decision to bring in somebody different and let Rice play.
Thomas Partey.
The Havertz didn't work with number 8 left role, so I'll have that about Havertz, that it didn't work as a number 8, but he's working as a centre forward. But Rice doing it's pretty good, isn't it? He had an amazing game.
He's different class, mate. He's so picking up on your points. I would say. The difference between Arsenal of last season and Arsenal of this season was, and to your point about the football and the chances there, they were missing chances, but it didn't look like it affected them. I think last year they got a bit uptight. Oh, we're missing chances. I always thought they were going to win the game, Rob. Yeah. And that's the maturity that the team have got, that Declan Rice brings, that is the way they play. Mikel Arteta deserves a lot of credit for that because he's moving this group on. Whether or not they're going to be good enough to win it this year or not is down to the brilliance of Manchester City. But this club is moving on and being developed, and if they buy the right type of players again in the summer, Rob, they're going to be vying for it again. But I just want to go back a little bit on the Kai Havertz, and I don't want to do the Kai Havertz thing because that's been done. But just in terms of some football teams, and I'm going to say Arsenal could be one of these teams, and I just want to throw this out there. Some teams are better not having a main centre forward who you build everything around, and he gets his 25 goals, and everyone else gets 6, 7, or 8. And I think Arsenal are a better footballing team, and having the Havertz who can be part of that football build-up and controlling possession than the guy who sits at the top end of the pitch and scores goals. Now, it's really interesting because there's talk that, are they going to go? And Osherman's being talked about, and, Isak's being mentioned. Ivan Toney being mentioned. I'm just a little bit fearful that if that player doesn't come in and be able to be part of the build-up, Rob, might take a little something away from Arsenal.
That's a good point. It's a really good point. Because the way the team is built, and again, we don't want to go on too much about it. Declan Rice got 7 Premier League goals.
Yeah.
Martin Odegaard, who, by the way, is a player that I definitely want to mention. He's like a blooming band conductor. He conducts everything in midfield. Absolutely silk on the ball. Particularly in the first half, I thought he was outstanding. And you got the wide players scoring plenty of goals with his Trossard. Saka's got 15, I think now. Has he got more than that? Maybe another one in that game. He scored the first goal, so he's got 16.
Could Jesus just give you that when you just want somebody to run further? And
so what you're saying is that they shouldn't bring another striker in?
Don't rush.
So you're okay between Havertz, Jesus, and Trossard sometimes as a false nine. That's enough, is it?
And Martinelli to come in sometimes, or Trossard goes central, Martinelli goes wide.
I think it's really interesting. You want
I want that football. I don't want to change that football where we get a little bit one-dimensional.
Yeah. Last thing on Arsenal, can you remember when Liverpool went head-to-head with Manchester City? Was it just pre-COVID? They got 98 points and City won with 99 points. And the sense was that Liverpool were getting closer and closer and closer.
The season before they won it.
Isn't that similar?
The season before they won it.
Right. So even if Arsenal don't win it...
Absolutely.
Then this is a very similar situation where they're growing, they're getting better, they're pushing them more and more and more, and they're probably going to find a way to win at some point. It could be this season, by the way.
It's not done. They've got to win out, Rob. But seeing the Arsenal team I've seen, with the 2 games they've got left, I can't see United
away and Everton at home.
I can see them winning both those games.
I can totally see them winning. Really, really good.
Good stuff for Mikel Arteta. So it was over to Manchester City. Could they slip up? I suppose. Listen, every time Man City play, Rob, and we sometimes are part of it. We look at the opposition and say, okay, there's got to be a twist in the 4 games for City and the 3 games for Arsenal. So we look at Wolves and think, okay, where's the twist? Hee-Chong Wang and Cunha are good players who can hit you on the counter-attack. Gary O'Neill's a very clever coach who sets his team up and they do this jump where they get turnovers, and could they hurt City? For all those things, Rob, and for all the stand-up arguments that people have, Manchester City blasted past Wolves.
They did.
They blasted past them, mate.
I thought they got a little fortunate with the penalty, Rob, the first one. For me,
Aït-Nouri and
Gvardiol. They're both genuinely challenging for the ball at the same time. Gvardiol gets there first, so you have I just feel for defenders.
I mean, if you don't get the ball clearly,
and Aït-Nouri's another one of those, Robbie. He doesn't see him, and I know that's not an excuse. But he just tries to clear the ball away, and the player comes in. Anyway, it was given. It was never going to get taken back because it's not clear an obvious error. But the referee points to the spot, and then Haaland scores. And then, there's a little bit. I thought Wolves had a period of playing a little bit of football. But as soon as the second goal goes in for Man City, then you know that Wolves have got to get 2 to take points off of them. Then you know it's not going to happen. And City then they can go into different gears.
The big lad then comes into his own, doesn't he? I mean, the header, Rob, is like magnificent. Probably only him in the league can score that.
Remember Ronaldo scored a header?
When his body's above
so high. And he just looked...
He looks like hungry. He looks sharp again. He looks like, he didn't want to come off. He's got 4 goals. He doesn't want to come off. He's got 25 Premier League goals. Well, everyone's saying not a great season for him. And I don't see them dropping points, Rob. I've got to be honest, and I know that's not going to have the drama, and that's not going to be... I just don't see this team dropping any points.
Fulham away, why wouldn't they win that?
Yeah.
And let's just obviously knowing that there's pretty much nobody injured, is there? Edison was okay.
Yeah,
These are players that were in doubt. Phil Foden was in doubt with illness, was fine. Ruben Diaz, maybe Ruben Diaz had a illness. So he's got all his options available. His holding players, his attacking players, his wingers. He can bring Doku. I mean, it's kind of crazy. So Fulham away, Tottenham away on the Tuesday, Rob. No, we'll get to Tottenham and Liverpool.
Yeah.
Is that... I mean, the last game is West Ham United at home.
Yeah.
That is not. It's the Tuesday that would look like the hardest game. That being said, we'll get on to Spurs.
It's not the hardest game.
Spurs.
It's not the hardest game. Not how they play, mate. Not with that high line. Not with Man City's dominance and time. Got a time one run in behind, and then you threw one-on-one with the goalkeeper.
Yeah. I'm with you. I can't see, particularly how they are right now, and going for this fourth title on the spin. Never been done top flight.
I mean, he wants history, Pep. And I know he's got his treble, he's got his 100 points, I think it's 106 goals. He wants to leave English football with the man who's created history in our game. Record in our game. There's no other team in the history of English football that's won 4 top-class titles on their
Is there anything
arms.
else for him to do?
Well, I read a really interesting article in one of the broadsheets, or it might have been the Athletic, and it was quite a detailed piece, Rob, and it was kind of saying, and again, I'm certainly don't know if this is true or not, that if he does get the 4, is that kind of where else is there to go? Is there 5? Does 5 make that much difference than 4? Because now he's got the history. Does he go for another Champions League? Or at some point does Pep go like, my work is done?
A little bit. I mean, could he try and get City more Premier League titles to start catching the Red
Uniteds
side
and the Liverpools?
I mean, that's a long way off. They're a long way off that. I don't know.
And the other thing just on that, Robin, we did touch on it today, and I just want to go there with you because we were talking about managers today, and we're sure and I am when we talk about Villa in a minute, and I was saying a similar. I wrote a note about Pep, Rob, that the hunger, drive, and the total commitment of football is so huge with these guys. Like Jurgen Klopp's decided for his health, and he needs a year off.
Right.
You know, I look at Pep and think it must be taking its toll. It's you know, somewhere, somehow, whether it's health, whether it's mentality, whether it's just getting up every morning and going into the ground and being the guy, to drive these group of players in the way he's done, it must be somehow taking its toll on it.
Obsession. Was it John Champion who talked about in commentary? One of the games today, there was talk about, I think it was actually about Roberto De Zerbi, about they were put, you know, that he's obsessed with the game. He's absolutely obsessed with it. Every minute of every day is and I can kind of believe that from De Zerbi. And Pep is another one, Rob. And I don't know how that drive keeps going, and when, you know, Jurgen Klopp has obviously felt like I'm losing energy, and I'm an energy manager, and I'm not the right guy because I'm losing that energy. I mean, Pep's offered. He looks exhausted. He must hate doing press conferences, doesn't he? You've got to do them before every game and after every game.
Was it Barcelona he took a year off, didn't he? And came to a place like New York and that, and took a time. Then he went into Bayern and. Is it? Does it come in? I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 year slots where you have to go?
Barcelona might have been a little bit different. I remember covering that league. It's his club, from player to coach and to manager.
This is his club, really, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
isn't
Man City becoming his club? There's a little bit more pressure on him personally for that, you know, the Real Madrid, you know, rivalry. But I don't know. I mean, he could surprise everybody, by the way.
Let me ask you another one, Rob, and you know, I know you will give me an honest, straight answer. If you were Pep and you get 4, and you know, might you think about, you know, you don't want to lose the next one or finish 3rd one year and have a little bit off you, like Liverpool have done, and that's fine because that's human nature. Might you just go,
my work here is done?
Yeah.
I would think very possibly. He might argue, and I think he said before, I have it perfect here. I've got everything that I want. I have a great board that former higher-ups at Barcelona running it, the director of football, Peguero and Soriano. They obviously have money to bring in some of the best players. We've been to the training facilities, incredible.
Class,
you know, maybe that sees things as good as it gets. But to go back to your question, I would think so. Given what he's done in different countries, doesn't he want to continue that and go somewhere else and prove himself? Because Italy.
We go back to that question, don't we? Will Pep change the Premier League, or will the Premier League change Pep? I mean, he's
changed English football forever in so many different ways. We ain't got time to get into now with style of play and with different positions,
we'll do a pod on Pep when that time is. But let's not end it at the moment. They've still got work to do.
They have. You're right.
Still got to finish it off.
Yeah.
But
this was no problem. 5-1.
Let's talk about the other big game this weekend. It was at Anfield. It was Liverpool. It was the penultimate, and somebody actually, I think, explained to Jurgen Klopp what penultimate meant. But obviously, last home game, great scenes. I know we just played You'll Never Walk Alone and let it play out today. I thought it was really well done. And you saw what the club means, the emotions to Klopp. Then Liverpool got down to business, ended up going 4 goals ahead, and then sort of Spurs came back into things, made a few changes. Liverpool maybe got a little bit sloppy. We ended up with a 4-2, which I said is almost like a very Jurgen Klopp scoreline. What's your takeaway from Anfield?
All right, so first takeaway is Mo Salah. Okay? Now, obviously, there was a spat on the sideline. Very angry with his manager, and they made up, apparently, according to Jurgen Klopp. He was a different human being today. Now, I don't know what's happened over the last few weeks, Rob. I really don't know.
Why things were off a little bit.
Things were off.
Yeah.
It kind of culminated in that little spat on the sideline. But Mo Salah's form and body language hasn't been great. And there's no bigger, better fans than us two of this guy over the years. But he just was really off his game, off his sharpness, off his desire, determination. And that all was back today. I mean, Spurs did a pretty good job of giving him some space to play. But Mo Salah is one of the stories today. His sharpness is even the first couple of chances, Rob, he goes through. Remember the one he went through with his right foot? He looks like he's really trying to find that far corner with it. So I thought he was the number one story of Liverpool's performance today. I mean, Jurgen Klopp's presser, he said, I just want us to play good football. Play our stuff, play our football. Let's get back into our attacking groove, which they did. Harvey Elliott's performance, Rob, as a 21-year-old midfield player, we've seen over the last year or so him come into the side and a little rest now and again, do some great moments, have some quiet games, have a little rest, come back in. We got to remember that these players, and we've seen it at Arsenal before our very eyes, these young players do get better with time and with reps. And great managers.
Foden's a great example of that.
Yes. So Harvey Elliott's goal is a special strike, Rob, into the top corner. I thought those two players, for me, were the ones that I remember this game from, I think, for those two.
Yeah. Again, I thought it was almost a game that shows the good parts of Liverpool and what Arne Slot, obviously once he's officially announced, is taking on. Thought it showed the areas that there's still work to be done, defensively at times. Sometimes that can get a little bit sloppy and turn the ball over, and Spurs weren't able to make the most of that, even though they got a couple of goals. But in the main, I think there's a lot of good parts of this Liverpool team. You're not far off the team that's not far off being able to compete.
And it'd be really interesting with Arne Slot, right? Yeah. With this group in a slightly different philosophy.
Correct.
Right? A little bit different, because it ain't going to be the same. It's just not. You know, where he's got decisions to make, the manager, about who he plays in midfield. Is he with 3 in midfield, 2 in midfield? You're going to play number 10, you're going to play number 8, you're going to play wide players, you're going to play... I think we know it's going to be 4 at the back from what he's done before. And the sense is it's a similar pressing, high energetic football. But, you know, how does he motivate? Does he want slow football at times where Jurgen Klopp kind of does best with the quicker stuff for the most part?
Could he also come in and just go... And it's interesting because you mentioned Harvey Elliott, and I was going to say, could Arne Slot come in and see Harvey Elliott and go... You're playing in my team, son. Could he come in and see it with different eyes and not be...
You got Szoboszlai. You know, got Curtis Jones, who's had a good first half of the season, particularly. Gravenberch, who's looked a little bit brighter. I don't know whether Endo's got a big future there, Rob. I still... And he's done great. I just think if you want you want something a bit more of a presence, possibly, in that role.
More physicality.
Maybe.
And the thing is, he's going to know a few players who he's probably want to bring in, who he's played against or he's managed and those things.
You've got your fullbacks in Trent, and you've got Robertson, who scored a goal today, Van Dijk. We don't really know what he feels like the future, but there's plenty of good bits there. But I just, you know, in some ways, I think it's good to see Anfield. I don't know. I mean, maybe, you know, because of what's happening, you know,
I think we're less about this kind of, well, they haven't won the title, well, it's not going to be so. I think you have to look at the whole piece with Liverpool and what he's done and what's achieved. And of course, listen, if they were in a title race now, it would have been brilliant scenes, and it would have been different, and there'd been an edge in it. But to finish third with this group of players in his second revolution at the football club, it's still an outstanding job.
You said it, Rob, today on our air, and you said that they ain't quite where they want to be. No. And that's exactly right. Arsenal are where they want to be.
Yeah.
They are excellent. They look like winning every single game. They had a couple of mistakes, the Villa game and maybe the Man City away. I mean, it's just very difficult going up against Man City, but they're not quite there. But given the changes and the announcement and everything else, it probably is the time for a change and bring somebody else in with a good squad. I mean, Jurgen Klopp, what an amazing job of trying to build another team that maybe isn't quite there yet, but the parts are there, the age is good, there's a few decisions.
We've seen those kids in the League Cup, wasn't it, the other time? There's a group of them kids coming, so... Right, let's have a quick chat about Spurs, because they've been on the spotlight a little bit. I think it's 4 straight defeats in the Premier League now. Again, I'm not going to focus too much on just this last period. I want to look at the season's work for Ange, and I think overall they're probably slightly ahead of where I thought they'd be. When you think of Newcastle, when you think of Man United, when you think of Chelsea, when you think of teams who were below them in the league, there's many good things. I thought he said a really interesting thing today, Rob, when he said he was pleased that we got back to the football and the way we played, because he hasn't seen that of late. And he's going to play and win or lose games a certain way. But as long as people are doing that, I think he's okay with it. It's when they go away from that, Rob.
Yeah, but even... All right, then. So if he was happy today that the way they try to play, they were down 4-0.
Yeah, I know.
And I know, and I'm certainly one to look at the season as a whole. And where they are right now, it's above and beyond what we expected, given all the changes and the new manager philosophy and all that. And that's real, by the way. And Harry Kane leaving, and a totally different and new signings, etc. If I'm a Spurs fan, I am a little concerned over the recent stuff and the recent performances. And I said it, and I'll say the last 4 games you said about the 4 losses on the spin. Well, they're all good teams. Liverpool got 4 against them. Chelsea got 2 against them. Arsenal got 3 against them. Newcastle United got 4 against them. Now, I know how he wants to play, and I know when that football is great, right? If you're playing against that football, you get forced back, and you don't get many opportunities. But if that football isn't good, and it's more of a, we have it, you have it, they look so short defensively because of the way that they're expanded out while trying to possess. So I know we know the answer. He's not going to change his philosophy. No. So it looks better at 4-2. But and you were more concerned than me about how open they look defensively.
I still am concerned, but I'm saying what I like is that he's got a certain way of playing. When they play good teams and they play the way they are, they're not as good as Liverpool. Today they weren't as good as Liverpool. Liverpool were way more better than them in the attacking third. Way better than them in the attacking third. Their football, Rob, wasn't bad. Their bits to get into 30 yards from goal is quite good.
But until late, when Charlotte came on,
and it looked a little bit of an edge. Those parts I'm okay with. But what I'm saying is, like, they went 10 straight games at the start of the season, 8 wins and 2 draws. Now it's like 4 draws. Like, I'm not going to have a downer just because they've lost the last 4 games. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, even before that, I mean, they've only...
But this group of players, Rob, in reality, if you put them against other group of players, they're not quite as good. I always say that you want to see progression. Yeah. Now, given this kind of drop off now, if they start next year, Rob, and it's a similar, that's what? Start as it? Yeah, start like the finish.
You expect with more time, right? Correct. And these new players, that it should kind of feel better as the season goes on. And this is a bit of a backward step.
Well, it's a good point, only to the point, like, this is Ange's first season.
I know it is.
So I'm saying, let's mark it against Klopp's last season. They're both not quite where they want to be, but there's enough good parts in Spurs to be quite looking to the future and thinking we've got a chance. But these bad parts of Spurs that need to be addressed. Yeah. I think player-wise, I think he's going to be more ruthless in the summer with some of these players. because he knows what he wants. And he's got the profile of player that he wants. And if you're not that profile, you can't play his way, so the team suffers.
Yeah. Just on terms of building, because he's all about building. He talked about it, like it's important for him to progress. Yeah. The first season, I think, with Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool was worse than this. Yeah. I think the first season with Mikel Arteta at Arsenal was worse.
Didn't have a great first year. Had a look at the league.
So given that kind of context, where they are right now, and again, I am too much weighting the last few performances. You just feel the longer he's there, it should kind of steadily get better. But no, as a whole, for the first season, and it should be allowed plenty of time to grow, progress. And he's had 2 windows. There'll be another window where there'll be changes.
I think looks like the manager, Dan Levy's going to give him. Let's just finally, just on closing on this one, let's just have a quick thought on. So there was a certain incident, Rob, at half-time. 2 players were going off, Romero and Emerson Royal. Apparently there was, words being said between the two, whether they went face-to-face or whatever. Vicario, the goalkeeper, comes running over, gets between them, sort of pushes them to a side, and they get in at half-time. Now, I believe certain people in the press picked this up and they've said, they're fighting and blah, blah, blah. Andrews asked about it after the game, and pretty much in his very laid-back Australian way said, happens, they cared, don't mind it, move on. Yeah. We were asked, Paul Burmeister today was hosting the show, and asked us, as players, how did you feel?
Yeah, or do we want to put it in the highlight? Do we make a big thing of it?
It's a big, I could dare say, if we looked at a lot of games and had that kind of deal, you could be putting that in most weeks. Most games I played, as you're walking off, I might be having a row with the fullback who hasn't done well. I might be saying to the winger, get the ball in. They might be telling me I'm not tracking my runner. Those kind of confrontations happen. You get in the dressing room, you sort it out, and you get out second half, and it's gone.
I'll tell you a couple of things, right? My biggest ever lesson, when I was a young player, Oxford United, I had an experienced player called Bobby McDonald. Been all around the block. Left back, played for Man City. Yeah. I played ahead of him, left midfielder, ahead of him one game at home, at the Manor Ground, a long time ago, small ground, and I didn't track a runner. He absolutely ripped me apart verbally. I'm a young kid, 18 or 19 years of age. Of all the things that in my career after and good moments, the bollockins, if I can say that, stay with you. And you learn from it. I'll tell you what, I never ever not tracked a runner again. Yeah. And just, even more recent times, I remember playing with Paul Ince. Ince was a Man United, Liverpool player, brilliant player, played for England. Every single game, he flipping, any time I had a bad touch or a bad anything, he was all over me. And there'd be times where I'm like, I give it him back. I'm like, what? You have rows. Yeah. Number one, I know why he was doing it. He was doing it for his own game. Yeah, to get him to be fired up and start getting some reaction from players. And he knows he's not going to do anything he's going to try and fire up the teammates around him. Yeah. So when 2 players, and it wasn't even much, by the way, and if they care about it, and he might have said to him, well, why didn't you track your runner? Why did you try and play offside? Or why did you get caught on the ball? And he's going to react back to it. So,
and you sort sometimes in your 100%. Sometimes that's how things have to be sorted on a football pitch. You haven't got time to have a sit-down discussion and have 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's all well done. I learned from that the hammering that I got, and that's going to happen throughout. And that's in life. You learn harsh lessons, and professional football is an environment where. You've got to grow a thick skin, and you've got to take responsibility, and you've got to take the hammer.
Spurs are a team who'll have to learn their lessons, mate, because they do make individual mistakes that end up costing the team. Yeah. So I just thought it was a good point to make, just based on some of the pictures that we saw today, and not sure how much social media's picked up on that. OK, my friend, let's get to some of the other results this weekend, and some important games, some important stories. I'm going to start you at Stamford Bridge. I'm going to start you at Chelsea, West Ham. It's a big derby, this. I lived in London. Chelsea play West Ham. The two teams don't like each other. This is a big derby for the fans. Forget everything else.
A lot of teams don't like Chelsea.
Because of the money and the King's Road and all this. In a London derby. Anyway, Chelsea just come off a good win against Spurs midweek. Yep. And win 5-0, Rob. And it was. I ended up watching this game in the window. It was as one-sided as you could wish. West Ham were probably as poor as I've seen them in a game this season. They've had and there's a lot of games where they've conceded 4s and 5s in that. But of games I've watched, it was as poor as I've seen. The defending was shocking. Unlike a David Moyes team, I think they've conceded 70 goals now, which is incredible for David Moyes. To the point, Rob, where I can't say I felt sorry for David Moyes because that's not the right thing, but You've always said, and I did quote you on air today, and I think, forgive me if you didn't want me to say it, but you said there'll be a natural end for David Moyes in West Ham, and then we'll see it and we'll feel it. We're there, mate. I'm sorry, we're there.
I think we are. I expect it to come next season. So it's come quicker than I thought.
Yeah.
You know, you think back to last year and you winning a European trophy. You see them in the top 10, Rob. You kind of like, okay, that's West Ham are doing all right.
Yeah.
They'll probably start with them again and sign his new contract. And if it doesn't work out, it will feel like it's coming to an end.
Yeah.
Well, I think through speculation, and let's get this right, Rob. If you take it as a whole club, and a whole club, I mean the fan base, which is the most important part of any football club.
Right.
You've got the board and you've got the higher-ups and the directors and the owners, etc. I think the whole club is thinking, this has been good with David Moyes.
Yeah.
He's done an excellent job. They're going to be ninth again, Rob. He's
Three
qualified
European
them for 3 European campaigns. They've won,
won
like
the
really,
Conference
really
League.
good.
Yeah.
But I get a sense from the majority of the fan base, which then does go to the board of directors and the ownership. Maybe it's time to upgrade. And I know they've tried to do this before. Manuel Pellegrini, remember this? We want Pellegrini, won a championship, I think, with Indy with Man City. We want him to come in and play the silky football. It didn't work out. Had to be rescued again. Moyes comes back in. All I would say is now, I feel like it's a better time to upgrade. We're seeing
the people who are available.
Like
you're talking about
the current style of managers, European managers. It's a really open, attractive style.
The Earle,
Blimenek, the De Zerbis,
Amarin.
You go around down the league. There's a lot, and I feel like it's a good time, maybe for West Ham, to find the guy that is going to be the right fit, that is going to play a better style of football, that maybe is going to be more entertaining, and it's going to fulfil the star players a little bit more than maybe what they have to grind out with Moyes a little bit. And again, there's no disrespect there. But it might be a good time. Now, getting the right guy is important.
Yeah, for sure.
But we know what West Ham United's... God, one of my first ever games at Upton Park, and God, it left a strong impression.
What a great job this is for somebody, by the way, because they've got good players, mate. There's some good players there. Yes, they'll have to work. But and the thing I hope is that, Rob, that if it does come in the end, and it pretty much looks like it's going to be that way for David, did he get the respect that he deserves?
Totally agree.
There's a dignity about the way he's worked and what he's done at this football club.
Absolutely.
And do you know what? They shouldn't contrast what David Moyes did in his style and his play to the new guy. Somebody's coming in with new ideas, a new way, and has managed in a different era. And David Moyes should be allowed to have said his period of what he did was the best thing for West Ham. One of the most successful West Ham managers they've ever had in their history, Rob, with what he's done.
Do you know, let me ask you this question to finish us off, really.
Yeah.
In the past in the Premier League, we've seen managers that are on the sideline. You know, Big Sam Allardyce is one of those. Now, here's my question. Is David Moyes going to be one of those guys for a Premier League team that's not doing very well at some point?
No, do you mean to come back in? Yeah.
To come back in.
Yeah.
Or are clubs now, or will they go away from...
Have they moved on?
Moved on from the blimmin', put the fire out. What's the words I'm looking for?
Firefighter.
Firefighter, go in there to do the basics and to grind out something.
It's a good question. And the reason I would say I'm not sure we'll see David Moyes in the Premier League again is because the new sporting directors, Rob, who are coming in running football clubs, have now all linked to coaches or linked to style or linked to data or linked to possession or linked to numbers that aren't going to work for David Moyes. Is not going to come into that.
It's more of a educated appointment for the next manager than an owner saying,
data-led. Get me Big Al. Get me David Moyes. Get me Tony Pulis. He'll keep us up.
Yeah.
But we've moved on. The game has moved on. Whether rightly or wrongly, we're gonna find out, Rob. But it's definitely the current flavour. But it'll be sad if it doesn't end in a little bit of dignity for David Moyes, but not a good day for West Ham. Just a quick line on Chelsea, because I've got to do this. I'm sure my Chelsea fans. I think you mentioned him the other day. Madueke played today, Rob, on the right-hand side, with goal and assist. Nicholas Jackson cut the goals, runs were better. They played with a confidence, mate. Again, Cole Palmer, not necessarily the star, not totally involved in anything, got the first goal, of course. But there's a confidence that's coming about Chelsea, mate, that you look at them in a whole different light now.
It's so interesting. This is like an experiment, because we said it from day one. This has never been done before, this amount of young players at the time. And it's an experiment to see, when you see a young player, first few games, half a dozen games, more, is that it then? That's what it got, is it, Madueke? He's going to be a little bit in and out of the game. He's a little bit inconsistent. Does he work back? And this is what a good manager does. He makes them better. And with the reps, I mean, don't we all agree that anything you do, the more times you do it, the more comfortable
the more easier you get.
And Madueke, and even Nicholas Jackson.
Nicholas Jackson,
you know,
13 Premier League goals now, mate.
Yeah, and he could have had 26. But is there reps? These are young. They can really improve.
Yeah.
I'll never forget Arsene Wenger said that you got to wait until they're 23 years of age, and you kind of got what you're going to get. They might obviously going to gain experience.
I think he's not quite that yet.
He ain't quite that.
I think somewhere I read as well, Rob, this week that his first-year numbers are not too dissimilar to Didier Drogba.
Yeah.
He came in the club and, came from French football. And
it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Pochettino, and I hope that... Because there's been talk, hasn't there, that he's not
like
showing to stay on.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be crazy.
Yeah,
It'd
I
be
think it would be
absolutely crazy. Yeah. Okay, Brighton... Villa, I know you watched this game. We'll quickly say that Villa weren't quite at it, were they? Olympiacos coming on Thursday. Chance to close the gap in the Champions League and didn't really take it.
Either, I feel that they look tired. They've had a really long season, a really good season, a long European campaign. And I feel like they're limping over the line a little bit, really, to the end of the season. Yeah. Or... like you're saying, it may be that they've got this game coming up. It's a big old game, and he wants to do well to go all the way in this competition because they should be going all the way in it, given what they've got, and whether they can switch it back on again for Thursday. Brighton were good. Were good, and they haven't been good.
Back to a little bit more.
A little bit more zip. Those young players they got all over the front line. Young players. Simon Adingra, right? Now, we've been so blooming busy this week. We're not doing underappreciated or whatever, but I mean, we've probably had him before.
Yeah, I think we have had him once.
Adingra is one to watch. It's been too many times now we've seen him play that he's just...
Could he be the next 40, 50 million one out the door, one of those kind of levels?
There's too much end product too regularly for it to be one of those that might be a Buonanotte or an Inciso looks really good, but is he going to be the real deal? Adingra looks like the real deal. We know that Mitoma is out right now, the Japanese wing has been out for a long time. Solly March is out. It's been a Simon Adingra season, breakout season. Yeah. Another one that they've picked up, and I thought he was the outstanding player. He gets the penalty. João Pedro scores on the save from the goalkeeper, Olsen. But Brighton were good. Villa looked tired. But Villa have had a great season. Yeah,
brilliant season. And it looks like Champions League football, mate, doesn't it? I mean, Spurs doesn't look like they're going to close that gap. And, I mean, what a turnaround through Miami. Another obsessed manager, mate. Maybe you've got to be obsessed if you're going to be a manager.
I think so.
Nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, we watched him on the sideline today, Rob.
He's
from a different
crazy,
planet.
Isn't he? Yeah,
he looks a bit... he's got...
Bless him, we love Unai Emery and the work he's doing. Listen, the big other story in the Premier League has been the relegation fight, Rob, and let's concentrate on that area of the picture, man. So Sheffield United already down, we're hosting Nottingham Forest. It's Forest who we know have had all kinds of stuff going on with points deductions, with Clattenburg, with PGOML and Clattenburg retiring. I mean, I said that it's about time Forest focused on the football pitch and got the job done. They did in the end, didn't they, the weekend?
They did. Gosh, I feel like we should link this with the Luton game that was on the Friday.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? We watched the Luton game.
Luton on Friday was the first game, wasn't it? Against Everton.
At Everton at home.
Everton already safe.
Yeah,
the Kenny, Friday night.
The lights were there, the fans were there, the atmosphere was there. It was brilliant. And we saw at the end, Rob, it was 1-1. And the fans gave the manager a standing ovation. He almost does a lap around to appreciate them, and which is great. And I jumped on the post-game show and I said, he should have done more to win that game. He should have done more. He should have turned up the dial, take off a centre-back, play with 4 at the back, bring on another striker earlier, bring on all his attacking options earlier, throw 3 people in the box, throw wingers on, go whatever you can do this stuff. You can do this stuff. It's a time for thinking about risk and reward. And where they are right now, with that game, Forest going to Sheffield United, and I said it afterwards, with Forest going there, the next day, wasn't it?
Or the next day. They were the next day,
It was the next day. That you got to go for that. You got to go for it. Throw people in the box. I remember Pep saying about City when they struggled, we just got to get more people in the box, he said. It's not complicated. If you get more people in the box when the ball gets in there, you got more of a chance of it bumping to, scoring, ricochets, knock-ins, being in the right place. And I just wanted Luton to be more proactive, go for it, get more, because you can do that with systems and tactics. You totally can. And I just think they might have missed a trick there. That was a crucial game. Just the point. Now, with Forest, Rob, back to the Forest game.
Forest game,
They're now 3 points clear of them. They have a much better goal difference.
So there's like 4 points left. In it.
They've got to make up 4 points.
I mean, I got to be honest, I wouldn't say disagreed. I took another line where I said, and I was thinking about, we were at, and this is how I was looking at, we were at the Churchill Downs, the sun's out, there's all sorts going on, and we're saying, oh, come on, Rob Edwards, go for it. And I'm thinking, hold on, let me be Rob Edwards at the Kenny, with a point against Everton before teams play. You don't know what's going to happen. And just hear me out. And I'm just thinking, like, yes, and I do agree with what you're saying in the main, but I'm just thinking sometimes, Rob, as a manager, I'm also thinking, I don't want to lose this 2-1. And I know, listen, I understand your point, but I'm trying to say you understand maybe where I'm saying Rob Edwards might be coming from. And I know it's risk and reward, but people stay up. Aston Villa stayed in the Premier League by a point against Bournemouth.
Well, they might have done. If they'd have won the game,
they could have. Exactly, but if they'd have got a point, but they'd have got a point and say Forest lost, they'd have been in a better place.
Sheffield United lost 25 games up to that point. It's like you've got to think that
I hear you, and listen, I'm not disagreeing, and I'm saying you're right.
Forest are probably going to get. They might get points back as well. Another reason for Luton to really go for it.
So let's just also let me ask you a question, and I'm not to put you on the point, but does Robbie, because people probably think or thought that Luton would go down, and you saw the Rob Edwards sort of, the appreciation of what he's done, and then he's had a brilliant go. And I know I'm not saying, and I know you're not saying, and it's an incredible story. But in some ways, if that was Everton playing there and they drew 1-1, what I'm trying to say is there's a difference because it's Luton and people are going, oh, well, Luton were probably going to go down anyway. So does it make managing that situation different?
Well,
do you know what I'm trying to say? I hear you, but
our job is to kind of to bring something that fans might think, actually, he might have done that. And it's very easy to see those pictures. And everybody at home, the neutrals, will say, wow, Luton Town. And what above this conversation is that it is amazing. They'll have a tiny budget, and it'll be an incredible story. Yeah. And I get all that, and I'm totally on board with that. Yeah. But just as one man that can tactically change something in a game like that, that's my point. That was all my point. Yeah. He'll stay at that club. They should, if he goes down, he should absolutely stay, and they have a great chance of bringing him back. But just the one point doesn't mean to say anything bad about what he's done there.
But the only thing I would say, Berry had an overhead kicked off the line. Somebody had a shot. Townsend had a shot at edge of the box. Braithwaite kicked it off. And he had a corner that didn't get late on. I mean, they were going for it. It wasn't that they weren't going for it, but they didn't get the goal.
I just thought they could have done a little bit more to help.
It's a point well made, and maybe Rob Edwards might be looking at things and thinking, should I? Because of the weekend we've had. So that was Nottingham Forest beating Sheffield United. That was Luton drawing with Everton. Burnley was the other one, Rob, that we talked about down at that bottom three, and they were facing an informed Newcastle, a Newcastle that had Callum Wilson and Isaac, and Burnley just didn't really turn up.
It's just a tough
Too
game.
much, wasn't it? They were just too good for him.
I know we've talked about it with Rebecca on the set and stuff about there's a bit of momentum at Burnley.
They're playing decent football, and they look like the one.
But it's a tough game to try and keep that going, and they just haven't been. They haven't been good enough, have they? Really? And I think that result there. I mean, they're not going to. I mean, this is miracle time now, and I don't think it's going to happen. And just summarising, Rob, we kind of thought that the three that got promoted might struggle a little bit, and that this pivotal weekend
looks
with
like
a 3-point gap to Forest, with the potential getting points back this next week, by the way, Tuesday or Wednesday, I think we're going to hear that. That looks difficult now for those three to escape. Well, certainly for Luton Town to escape.
Absolutely, mate.
All right, what we've got left? We've got not much left. We've got Brentford and Fulham 0-0. Not much to play for. Enough said. Yeah.
Point each. Listen, mate, what a great weekend.
I want to chuck something else in.
Oh, here we go.
Maybe you were going to chuck it in.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Our great friend.
Yeah.
Our great friend.
We miss us not to mention our great friend Tim Howard was inducted into the 2024 US National Hall of Fame. We saw some great pictures. If you get a chance, go on YouTube or Peacock and watch Tim being inducted. And I've got to tell you, a world-class speech. I mean, world-class. Up there with Oscar-nominated speech.
Yeah, it was
where
wonderful.
He talked about his life growing up, his parents, his influences, his coaches he's worked with, his wife, his partner now, his children, and couldn't happen to a nicer, more honest, more transparent man who's not had it always easy. Has played one of the best games in international football history, played in a World Cup. And actually, the greatest thing is, say, a good friend of ours who has been on the show many times and is an absolute pleasure to work with.
And had a brilliant career.
Cool.
Had a brilliant career. to be that good for so long at a club like Everton
and Manchester United.
Yeah,
but Sir Alex Ferguson to pick you out at Manchester United, I mean, that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, and some of the... please, it's out there and you can find it on YouTube, but the way that he goes through and thanks everybody that's influenced him, the piece about his mum was like, we heard it, like it's kind of emotional and... my goodness, some lessons in there, by the way.
Absolutely.
Some strong lessons in there.
For anybody who thinks, and anyone who thinks, playing at the top of the game and earning so many thousands of pounds, it comes easy.
It shows it's not.
Listen to Tim Howard. So congratulations to him.
Absolutely.
And Amy Rosenfield, that's just mentioned.
Amy Rosenfield, so she helped me be where I am today.
Yeah, she's a producer now at NBC, works on the Olympics, but was a big part of the growth of US soccer and the production of it.
She picked me out to work in for ESPN stuff that I did.
She's the one to blame, is she?
Yeah, she is. World Cups and big stuff like that. So she's a star.
Well done to Amy as well.
Star.
Listen, mate, we're going to wrap it up on a week that was a combination of the Kentucky Derby and the Premier League. Let's not forget we enjoyed a mint julep or two, didn't we, down in Titchfield Downs? At the top of the league, Arsenal and Man City both win this weekend. At the bottom of the league, Burnley lose. They're going to make it difficult to stay up now, and Luton Town didn't get a win. We'll be back next weekend for another big week of Premier League action. Manchester City travel to Fulham. Manchester United host Arsenal, and Liverpool take on Aston Villa. But for now, I'm Earle, he's Mustoe, together with the two Robbies. Thanks for watching and listening. Be safe, stay healthy. It's a good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Good night.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock. And be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you there.